نفا أو زنادا فلا تسمع فتاوى كل ناس شعروا بالعلم وازدادوا فسادا فهذه لا في اجتهادا سوى ما كان سيفا أو زنادا فلا تسمع فتاوى كل ناس.
To understand this complicated conflict better, we need to understand the relationship between the two main branches of the Muslim faith, Shia and Sunni Islam. Sunnis make up about 80% of the Muslim world, and Shia about 20%, and the hardliners on both sides don't like each other very much. Saudi Arabia and Iran are the two most powerful players in the game of faiths. They both have no separation of state and religious domestic problems, and a lot of oil money. They also support groups that fight the other religious orientation, and one of those terror organizations supported by Saudi Arabia was the Islamic State in Iraq, or ISIS for short.
أشهد أن محمدًا رسول.
أحب أن أصير بدولة الإسلام في العراق والشام وأقاتل معهم لأنهم يحبون أن يقاتلون المرتدين والكفراء.
نحن المسلمين، نحن الذين نريد أن نقيم شرع الله في هذه الأرض، والله الذي لا إله إلا هو، لا يقام شرع الله إلا بالسلاح، إلا بالسلاح.
أقول لأمريكا إن الخلافة الإسلامية قامت، وبإذن الله لن تتوقف. يا جبناء إن كنتم رجال فنحن على الأرض، فلا تأتون بالطائرات من دون طيار، فأتوا بجنودكم الذين مرغنا أنوفهم في العراق، وبإذن الله سوف نمرق أنوفهم بكل مكان، وإن شاء الله بالبيت الأبيض سوف نرفع على راية لا إله إلا الله.
ISIS has now been labeled the world's best research terrorist organization, but where does its money come from? ISIS formed in April 2013 out of Al-Qaeda in Iraq and Syria. Originally a ragtag group of fighters, ISIS made money from smuggling, extortion, and other crimes. In Syria, the group bolstered their cash flow by taking over oil fields. In Iraq, they allegedly extorted taxes from businesses netting more than $4.7 million a month. The money funded their recent attacks on cities in northern Iraq, including Mosul. Before the fall of the city, the group's wealth was an estimated $515 million. Since then, ISIS has robbed $256 million from banks. Their wealth has been boosted to $1.4 billion, making ISIS richer than the Taliban.
Around 3,000 Westerners are among the near 20,000 people worldwide leaving their home countries to go fight alongside ISIS and other jihadist groups in Syria and Iraq. Experts on terror say those immigrant fighters could be the greatest threat to the United States because of their ability to travel freely and blend into mainstream society. Many have been recruited through a powerful online propaganda machine which ISIS has developed to reach out to militants in Europe, Canada, and the United States. The terror group now has its own multilingual media arm, Al-Hayat, which is behind the creation and distribution of glossy magazines and highly produced videos. ISIS even uses drones and GoPros to appeal to the Western eye. ISIS propaganda videos have been compared to Hollywood movies and other films in terms of public appeal. By portraying themselves as an expanding group who has been victorious in their battles, they have let their actions become their words. The centralized structure of the caliphate has also created a sense of purpose for those who want to give meaning to their lives. With almost 80% of the current force of ISIS fighters being foreigners, there's a clear influence that ISIS has on the world.
Is this anything that they would use in Anbar right now, anywhere on the battlefield?
Almost never. This type of hand-to-hand fighting with automatic weapons, mortars, artillery, vehicles almost never really occurs.
And the breaking news that we've really handled on Fox News over the last hour is the purported death of the Jordanian pilot that was captured by ISIS. Apparently, according to information that is coming out in dribs and drabs from the Middle East, we're going to get to Catherine Herridge in a moment with what she knows. He has been brutally murdered by the terrorists. And a new video apparently shows this young pilot on your screen being burned alive inside a cage.
This Indiana mother has resorted to tweeting his captors directly. Let me show you her tweet. She writes, "I am trying to get in touch with the Islamic State about my son's fate. I am an old woman And Abdul Rahman, formerly known as Peter Kasig, is my only child. My husband and I are on our own with no help from the government. We would like to talk to you. How can we reach you?
And good day from New York. We're coming on the air, sadly, to report video evidence that seems to show another American has been beheaded by the radical ISIS militants. In this case, another American journalist. Our chief foreign affairs correspondent, Andrea Mitchell, standing by in Washington to fill in some of the blanks in this story. Andrea?
We have not confirmed the details, but the website is saying that Steven Sotloff, the American who we know was being held by ISIS originally in Syria, in Raqqa, in northern Syria, has been beheaded. We saw the appeal from his mother in Florida. He was a Florida native, 31 years old, a freelance for Time Magazine, for Foreign Policy Magazine, and other journals. His mother, Shirley Sotloff, with an appeal directly to the head of ISIS, al-Baghdadi, saying that you are the caliph, you are the head of the caliphate, you can be merciful, show your mercy, give him a release because he is not responsible for President Obama's foreign policy. He is an innocent.
A chilling video of Christians executed in a mass beheading. And now ISIS is threatening to go even further. We get more from our chief foreign affairs correspondent, Andrea Mitchell.
21 Egyptian Coptic Christians being paraded along the Tripoli waterfront before being beheaded by ISIS terrorists in Libya, even as the terror group threatened to kill more Egyptians in Libya, among thousands of Egyptian migrants unable to find jobs at home. Egypt scrambled F-16s to retaliate. It said striking ISIS targets in Libya, the first time it's taken military action against the terror group. Back home in their impoverished Egyptian village, relatives of the slaughtered prisoners grieved, calling ISIS butchers, monsters. And the horror galvanized protesters in Cairo, as Italy, the last Western power in Tripoli, evacuated its citizens. And Pope Francis mourned the latest victims. He said their only words were, "Jesus, help me." They were killed simply for the fact that they were Christians. But in Libya, now gripped by civil war, ISIS is taking root.
There is only one message that comes from them, which is convert to our ways, do things our ways, or we're going to kill you.
A strategy developed over recent years has evolved into a sophisticated campaign. Now at the center of the world's attention, ISIS is using its skills to communicate directly to Americans, starting in Iraq and now spreading to Syria since entering the war there in 2013. ISIS used social media to publicize its campaign of slaughter and threaten its enemies. The group's military ability was enhanced by its reputation for brutality, spread by its own media efforts, which weakened its enemies' resistance. On Twitter and in Facebook pages, ISIS was making appeals as well as threats, attracting recruits and encouraging funding online. This was actually an old tactic adopted to current technology. Addressing its American audience, ISIS is actually speaking to at least two different groups. To the vast majority who are disgusted by the group, it is boasting its power and trying to make people believe that even inside America they are vulnerable. But there is a smaller and more dangerous group that ISIS is not trying to scare, but instead inspire.
والرصاص والجسوم فتات كيف أرضى المقام فالسلام السلام يا صحافي الكرام يا صحافي الكرام كيف أرضى النفاق كيف أرضى الشطط ودماء تراق وعروضا تحط والأنام تساق في طريق الغلط حالة لا تطاق والكلاب سلط قد عزمت الفراق فالسلام السلام يا صحافي الكرام يا صحافي الكرام لست أرضى النهض في وجوه القرود قد رضوا بسقط وفعال اليهود وزعيم كفر ورئيس زحود معز